He vowed, I'll never, ever speak to my teammate again. And he was right. Because he
Yeah.
got killed 2 weeks later trying to beat Pironi to the pole in Zolder.
I guess probably what most people might start with when they ask you is, I wouldn't mind knowing about how you yourself got into Formula One, because growing up in Dublin, I saw Ballantyre is what it says online. Formula One and motorsport isn't exactly the obvious choice, I'm guessing, from back then. So what was it that drew you in? Did you yourself have family before in it, or what was it that sparked your interest there?
So my dad sold groceries out of a corner grocery shop in Wickham Park in Dundrum.
Oh
That
yeah.
was that was our background.
Okay.
With no racing background, no car background, nothing. But I was born with a love of cars, love anything mechanical there. Um, when I was 12 years of age, I was walking home from school, typical short pants, the leather school bag that we had in our back in those days. Walked into Wickham Park, a neighborhood, and there was a green truck, an English registered truck with Sydney Taylor Racing on the side of it. And I thought, well, I bet you that's a racing car. I go to my dad and I tell him the truck is there. And the lady who lived there, it was her brother.
Oh.
She bought her groceries from my dad. And so she told my dad that there is a racing car there and I can see it at 7 o'clock that night. We go back at 7 o'clock, they open the doors, and here Brabham BT8 sports car with a green stripe and an Irish shamrock on it.
Oh, wow.
Going to be raced the next day by Sydney Taylor. Sydney Taylor was Irish. And my dad said, I'll take you to watch it race. He takes me out to Dunboyne, 1965. 65, yeah. So I was 12. And Dunboyne in 1965, remember, was the racetrack was around the village. You sat on the grass banks. There were no safety fences. And you literally sat there and watched the cars just whiz by. And I remember the noise and the color and the smell and everything about it captivated me so much that I told my dad that's what I was going to do. I was going to be a professional racing driver.
Jesus.
Now, for a 12-year-old in the middle of Dunboyne to say anything like that to his dad, was pretty ambitious. Because we didn't have a racing circuit in Ireland, remember, at that stage. The Mondella wasn't built till 1968. And so, but something was sparked inside me. And I remember the day in HD video as if it happened a month ago. It's that clear. That set the destination of my life. And everything I did from there fitted around the mission of how do I become a racing driver? And so I went through all the normal teenager stuff, and you go to school and you get a job and you do all that stuff. But at all times, how would I become a racing driver was the only thing I ever thought about. I mean, it was talk about trailblazing. It was a ridiculous goal
Hmm.
to set for yourself. And I didn't really tell a lot of people, but I knew myself. I wanted a race, give myself a chance to do it somehow.
Yeah. So what was your first step into that dream and into that goal?
So I'm on a bicycle riding around Dundrum, and I see this poster said stock car racing in Santry Stadium that weekend. And so I went to my dad, and he took me out there, and stock car racing, you didn't need a racing license. So at 16, when I got my first motorbike, a Yamaha 50, I could actually then go back and forth across the city to Santry myself and just sit there watching it.
Yeah.
And decided I'm going to race. So at 16 years of age, I bought an old, literally a piece of junk, had my dad tow it through the neighborhood, put it in the garage at the back of our house because I was going to work on it and I was going to paint it and prepare it and become a racing driver right from our own garage. And then he would tow me out to Santry Stadium, and I would race and crash and bash. And And at 16, I was the youngest driver in Santry.
Jesus.
And it was a wild existence because again, I didn't know anything about cars. You learned on the fly, and my dad knew a bit, so he helped me, and that was such a basic decision to take. And I was 16, but little did I know things were going to happen really fast after that.
That must be special. You said you had a motorbike. Did you ever consider like motor racing?
No,
Like that?
never. Never considered go-karting. I
Yeah,
didn't even know anything about karting. Now, my
yeah,
brother raced karting years later. I never considered a racing school. There was no such a thing back then
yeah.
because
Same.
every penny you had could only go into actual racing whatever car you had.
Hmm.
So yeah, never considered on by motorbike racing at all. I was always cars.
Yeah. Obviously, it's still crazy expensive to try and get into Formula One
Yeah.
today. Obviously, a bit with sponsorships and everything like that. How was that a struggle for you to afford to even buy or fix up cars, or how did you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same today as it was back then. Back
Hmm.
then, it was unaffordable to the
Yeah.
normal human being. Today, it's unaffordable. However, there's always ways to do it. And the model that we had back in the day was do everything possible to give yourself a chance and then just see what happens. The model today is different, but you still have to do everything you can to give yourself a chance.
Hmm.
But the model is different. It's more expensive. It's more specialized. There's more people involved. There's more consequences. There's a lot more money to be need to be invested. But it was the same back in our day. And you mentioned earlier about what was it like, to have an aspiration to Formula One. I can't tell you that I told everybody I was going to be a Formula One driver. Back then, Formula One drivers were on a stage that was so far beyond reach of normal people like me.
Hmm.
They were stars that were on a platform that was almost unattainable. But what I did promise myself is that I would at least give myself a chance to go as far as I could.
Yeah.
That was important to me. And I think that stood to me for years and years and years because when you dedicate yourself to something, and I believe this is true, Kristen, in almost any field, if you dedicate yourself and you show you're committed and dedicated, supporters come alongside you to support you and potentially help you. And it might be only moral support, it might be financial support, it might be mechanical support with a car or something. But I'm a great believer that when you show that type of commitment, people want to help your journey because they're ride the journey with you, even though they don't have the skills to do what you think you can do.
Yeah.
They want to come on the journey with you. And that's the same today. Every young driver who makes it to Formula One today, you can look back on a series of happenings, supporters, support, internal, external, that just comes along to help you get the next step. And if you keep proving that you're worthy of the next step, then I believe the next step will come again.
Hmm. Who were your biggest like supporters, do you think, in your career?
Oh, undoubtedly, in 1975, I met a fella in Kirkeston in the north of Ireland called Big Derek McMahon. He was
Hmm.
a big, loud, boisterous, heavy drinker, joker, successful businessman. And I walked up to him in the bar at Kirkeston one day and I said, I'm Derek Daly and I'm a young Dublin fella. I'm going to try and go to England to see how I get on. And if I can make it to the next step, would you be interested in helping me? And he was very inebriated at the time, and he took a deep breath and looked at me and he says, "Hey, I need you like I need a 6-inch hole in my head." And he turned around and started drinking again.
Oh.
And I was so naive. I was so shocked. I walked away, with my heart pounding in my chest. And I thought, well, that's it. I blew that. I didn't impress him enough. And so I did go to England. I did race in England. I won a lot of races the following year, supporting myself, just doing everything I could. I lived in an old bus that got converted into a transporter and a house, a motorhome type. And little did I know, when I was in England, Derek McMahon, who turned me down, was watching. And at the end of the year, they have in England called the Formula Ford Festival. They actually still have it today.
Mm-hmm.
150 drivers from around the world would descend on Brands Hatch, and there was a shootout. And you went up against the best of the best, and the winner got a trophy that year from James Hunt. He had just become Formula One world champion, and Marlboro sponsored the Formula Ford Festival, and they called it Tribute to James. So James Hunt was there on behalf of Marlboro to present the trophy to the winner. Well, I won everything that weekend. I won my quarterfinal, the semifinal, the final. I go up onto the court. It says world champion, present and future, question mark. James Hunt giving me the trophy. So that was a nice piece of momentum, right? A week later, I got a call from Derek McMahon, the guy who turned me down, and he said, I followed what you were doing, and I see that you have the desire and the commitment. I'll help you take the next step. I'll help fund you, finance you to go into Formula 3. And back then, Formula 3, just like it was today,
Mm-hmm.
Formula 1, 2, and 3. Formula 3 was the first international class you could go to. There was a British Formula 3 championship, but you could go race in France, in Italy, in Austria, in Formula 1 support races. This was big stuff now for us back in that day. That was 1977. And that was the year the rocket ship began to take off for me, because and back in those days, Kristen, we didn't have engineers. You didn't have data banks of information. It was a bit of a, suck it and see, a bit of a trial by fire, trial and error, because you had to set up your own car.
Yeah.
I did have a mechanic who worked with me. And the start of the season started okay. I could be sixth, and I was fifth, and maybe sixth again, and then I might get fourth. And halfway through the season, at the British Grand Prix, Formula 3 support race. Now, that was the first time I was ever in front of a Formula 1 crowd. First time I was ever in front of a Formula 1 team manager, and I didn't know if they watched anything or not.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, I found out, yes, they do keep track on it. And there was a barnstormer of a race between me and a British guy called Stephen South. And I led the race, and it was a dogfight, and we were banging each other. Anyway, he tried to pass me, and I wouldn't let him pass. I resisted. I was either going to crash or I was going to keep the lead. Well, we had a big crash. I was too stubborn to let him pass. He flew off upside down, destroyed it, ended up in the emergency center in Stoke Mandeville Hospital. I ended up back in the paddock in tears, trying to convince Derek McMahon to let me go to the Austrian Grand Prix Formula 3 support race. I told him I can win these races. We're almost on the verge. I can do this. You have to let me go. We go to the Austrian Grand Prix. I'd never been there before. The most beautiful country I'd ever seen.
Mm.
Arguably my favorite racetrack still to this day. I qualify on the pole beside Nelson Piquet, who was doing the European Championship at the time. And I was sitting on the pre-grid, strapped in. Big Derek was sitting with his leg up on the right front tire. And this older gentleman limped and shuffled past my car, went over to talk to Big Derek and said something. And Big Derek came round to me and he said, that fella there, just said, if you win this race, he'll put you in a Formula One car by the end of the year. I said, who was it? He said, some fella called Sidney Taylor. Remember the name Sidney
Hmm.
Taylor when I was 12 years of age?
Yeah.
All these years later, he was running the Theodore Formula One team on behalf of a Chinese businessman, saw that I was a young Irish guy, dedicated and committed to doing whatever I could, saw that I was on the verge of winning Formula Three races. Because if you won F3 races back then, you were big stuff. That was tough.
Hmm.
That was arguably it was even tougher than Formula Two back in that day. And that's why he said, if you win this race, I'll put you in a Formula One car by the end of the year. I went out and had a barnstormer with Nelson Piquet. Passed him with about 10 laps to go, won the race, up on the podium, and Sidney Taylor there says, I'll have you in a Formula One car. 6 weeks later, I was testing a Formula One car.
Oh my God.
That means I went from Formula Ford, the lowest level, to Formula One in less than 13 months. Do you know that's the record fastest climb ever from Formula 4 to Formula 1, even today?
Wow. No, I did not know that. That's very impressive.
Even today. So, all those years ago, when James Hunt handed me the trophy in 1976, right? 2 years later, I qualified right beside him at Brands Hatch at the British Grand Prix in my Grand Prix debut. It was just, it's crazy. It's mad to think about it, and to relive it all those years ago, what happened and how it happened.
Yeah. That's such a like a full circle moment with Sydney, and
Yeah,
that's incredible. I
yeah,
didn't know any of that.
yeah.
Um, who was your, well, if you had one, do you think you had a set like rival or a few maybe, or maybe it's a little different today. Did it change a lot sort of back then?
You mean in the early days or in F1?
Um, uh, yeah, we can go to F1.
Yeah, well, so I remember being asked um, when I was in Formula Three. So anyway, after the Austrian Grand Prix, I
Mm.
came back to England, won the last 5 races in a row, won the British
Wow.
Championship. So naturally, I was top dog at that stage.
Yeah.
All the momentum was going my way. But anyway, I was asked at the end of that year who I thought were the best drivers in England. And I told them from my Formula Ford days, David Kennedy and Derek Warwick. And ironically, both of them made it to F1.
Yeah.
And in Formula 3, I was asked who was the best Formula 3 driver that I came across. And I said, Elio De Angelis. I don't
Okay.
know whether you've ever heard of him, but Elio De Angelis was doing the European F3 Championship in 77, same year I was. And he made it to Formula 1 with Lotus and Brabham, and unfortunately got killed at Paul Ricard.
Mm.
But he was the most gifted driver I'd seen in F3. When I jumped into F1, now it was different. Now there was big stuff. Now it was noisy and fast and dangerous. But the two people I looked up to were Jackie Stewart, because Jackie Stewart was 3 times Formula One world champion with Tyrrell,
Hmm.
and Tyrrell was still active in Formula One. And I met Jackie because of television broadcasting. He was doing television when I was a driver, so we
Yeah.
interact. The other one was James Hunt. I was just fascinated that James Hunt, when his life was on fire, everything around him was in explosive mode, yet he could still get into the car and still put it on the pole and still win races. He had the ability to just focus in the moment, no matter what was going on, turmoil in his life, off track. And so I was always impressed that he could narrow down his focus and put aside, forget the turmoil, and go out and do his job. So they were the two drivers really that I admired most of all.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that was one of my other questions. My dad gave me one question to ask, and he just wanted to know your opinion on James Hunt, which you
Yeah.
probably quite a bit. I mean, so he was a proper inspiration to you then.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I got to know him so well. It started with when he presented the trophy to me.
Yeah.
But his during his career, obviously I raced against him, but then he went into television broadcasting. So I was a subject that he would talk about. and he remembered the day in the rain at Brands Hatch when I won the Formula Ford Festival, and when I was leading in Monaco when it was raining in 1982. He was talking about Daly, who's he remembered from back in the day. But then his brother Peter was my accountant
No way.
in a wild set of circumstances. Yeah, his brother Peter was my accountant. He lived in London. And then, of course, the first Formula One race I drove was the Hesketh, which was
Mm,
James Hunt's old team. So there were so many connections all through my career and his career, and then into my second career, which was television broadcasting. Yeah.
hmm.
I was so sad when he died because it was so
Yeah,
sudden. Young guy,
I
you know.
know.
Yeah,
Devastating. I mean, I
yeah,
wasn't alive back then,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I can still tell the impact that it had on the motorsport during
But
the event.
I know that era went on before you were even born,
Mm,
Kristen. But the era of this of the late 70s, when you had John Watson, Clay Regazzoni, Nicky Lauda, Ronnie Peterson, it was just such a golden era. Mario
yeah.
Andretti came over in 78. It truly was a golden era. Carlos Reutemann. There were so many great names. It was just it was an emotionally engaging sport at that time. I think maybe more so than it is today. It's
Hmm.
become a bit specialized today, but it still operates right on the edge of what might be possible.
Yeah. You really did. The biggest names in motorsport were the people that you raced again. Didn't you race against Lauda, Andretti?
Yeah,
Did you race against Villeneuve?
yeah, Gilles Villeneuve. Yeah, he came
Yeah.
in 1968. I have a great picture of me. I lived when in 77 when I was doing Formula 3. I lived in Silverstone in the village. And I heard that there was somebody testing a McLaren at Silverstone. So off I go. And it was a guy called Gilles Villeneuve, his very first test in a Formula One car. And there's 25 years later, maybe even more, a photograph appeared of Villeneuve about to step into the McLaren. And in the background is me with my old bell bottom jeans and freebie Adidas windbreaker jacket. And I'm looking over at a Formula One car and a young guy about to get his dream debut. And that picture appeared 25 years after. It's an amazing picture to see it. But that was the time. So we both then lived in Monaco at the same time in 1982 when he got killed. So
Hmm.
I was with him 6 days before he got killed. He was walking on the seafront with his son and daughter and his wife Joanne. The son obviously was Jacques, who went on to become world champion. But that was an amazing time to know him and to know the commitment he made to the sport. And he got killed. He got killed because of an emotional situation he got into with his teammate Didier Pironi 2 weeks before in Belgium. He was so livid at what, sorry, at Imola. He was so livid what Pironi did to him 2 weeks earlier. He vowed, I'll never, ever speak to my teammate again. And he was right because he
Yeah.
got killed 2 weeks later trying
Yeah.
to beat Pironi to the pole in Zolder.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's a heartbreaking story.
yeah.
Um, I'd say that's very hard on Peroni as well.
And so, it's interesting when I do these podcasts, Kristen, we never know where they're going to go.
Hmm.
But such an opportunity for me to relive days that are dumbfounding when you go through it, but you don't realize it
Hmm.
because you don't allow yourself to realize what's truly happening. So people are being killed, and you have to force yourself to let it just, run off your back. So Pironi, I knew him very well because I was his teammate in Austria, the Austrian Grand Prix, in 1979, when his teammate Jean-Pierre Jarier got hepatitis. So I was brought in as a fill-in with Didier as a teammate, so I got to know him very well. Knew him all through his Ligier days. And sadly, after his teammate Villeneuve got killed, Germany, which is only 3 or 4 races later, Pironi was trying to pass me in Germany at Hockenheim, and it was raining cats and dogs, and he was behind me coming into the stadium. I moved over to let him pass me. He thought I was the only car creating the spray, but I was following Alain Prost in the Renault.
Mm-hmm.
Pironi went sailing past me thinking I moved over to let him by. Didn't realize Prost was there. Hit the back of Alain Prost, cartwheeled, and his career ended right there because of devastating injuries.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to still compete. So 2 or 3 years later, he went back offshore powerboat racing and got killed off the Isle of Wight. And they're
Yeah.
amazing stories, all interconnected
Yeah.
in an era that I lived through. And it's podcasts like this that I get to recall that, because they're the type of stories you forget,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't tell your friends every day these type of things. But I think it's important to fill in a bit of history, at podcasts, if only to share maybe the history with other people of an era that was, quite extraordinary.
Yeah. I mean, the era that you're in Formula One, and obviously earlier, the most like incredibly dangerous. And you've obviously been involved in dangerous moments as well. Does that still affect you? Do you still like think about the hardest moments of your career and, losing people so frequently and
Yeah,
in
yeah,
many
yeah.
things? Is that still something that you carry with you today and probably many drivers from that time?
Um, so it's a really interesting question, because questions like that prompt someone like me to go a bit deeper into understanding how did it affect me. Because for years, drivers just don't allow themselves to think about it.
Hmm.
Um, so my second Formula One race, Monza, Italy, you couldn't, the Tifosi, Formula One, Ferrari, Monza. I mean, it is the glory. This is what movies are made of.
Hmm.
Ronnie Peterson gets into a big crash on the run to the first corner. His car explodes, all the fuel comes out, the track is on fire. It looks like an airline accident. I get caught in the accident, I get hit, I hit the barrier, I jump out of my car, and the whole place is on fire. My heart's pounding through my chest, my eyeballs are pumping out through my head, and I run back because I can see Peterson is trapped in his car and it's on fire. 5 drivers, myself, Mizzario, Clay Regazzoni, James Hunt, and somebody else, run back to see what we can do. James, as soon as I got there, I could feel the heat haze. James Hunt runs into the fire, undoes the seatbelts, drags him out, and throws him at my feet. And I could see his legs were so badly damaged, it looked like a rag doll, but he was alive because he lifted his visor and he was beginning to talk. And so I walk back to my pits. I get there, and a journalist and my girlfriend at the time, Siobhan, are asking me what happened. I only got one sentence into what I saw when I started to cry. One of my heroes, I just saw him almost get killed. And so I'm trying to splutter through this explanation. I start to cry. And so I go back to the back of the pit lane, of the pit box. And about 45 minutes later, you pull yourself together. 45 minutes later, having just experienced the worst experience I've ever seen in my life, my team manager comes up to me, taps me on the shoulder, and it says, the spare car is ready for you and the race is about to restart in 15 minutes. Pull yourself together.
Mm.
Now, I tell you that story because that's the type of story you have to learn how to forget.
Yeah.
I went out, finished 10th, my best ever Formula One result, top 10 in Formula One, your second race. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And Ronnie Peterson died that night in
Hmm.
hospital, of a freak incident because bone marrow got into his bloodstream and stopped his heart. It would never happen today. But back in Formula One in those days, we were always told if ever you have a big crash, don't have it in Italy because the standard of medical care was never as good as it was in places like England, in London at the time. But they're the type of stories, Kristen, that you sort of forget about, but they're life-defining moments because you're in a sport where the chances of you being killed are high. The chances of you being in an incident that you may survive, but you could get killed, are very high. And I went through lots of those too throughout the 5 years that I was in Formula One.
Yeah. Um, I just got a notification saying that I've 6 minutes left before the
Right.
Zoom cuts off.
Okay.
I've already went over the time that I told you,
Yeah.
so sorry about that. Um,
Okay.
but just okay, so we have Monza coming up this weekend. Um, Back to sort of Irish motorsport really quickly. We've Alex Dunne in FP1 taking over Oscar Piastri's car this weekend.
Mhm.
We also have Fionn McLaughlin coming up in F4. Well, he's looking like he could win the championship if all goes
Yeah.
well. Have you
Yeah.
met either of them or had the chance to give them advice?
So back in the day when I was 16 years of age, I raced stock cars in Santry against a fella called Matt Dunne. Matt Dunne was Alex Dunne's granddad.
Oh my God. The
So
connections.
yeah, isn't it amazing? And
Yeah.
so Alex Dunn's dad, Noel Dunne, I know him for years, raced
Uh-huh.
Formula Ford, the same class I did. And so when Alex Dunne was 12 years of age, I did a driver development seminar in Mondello. He was there. He was a small little fella, 12 years of age, living the dream, thinking I'm going to give myself a chance. And I've been in touch with his dad on a regular basis since then. So I know Alex very well. I followed his career. I followed all the steps. He is a remarkable talent who
Hmm.
has, his dad has positioned him to learn at a higher level, I think, than any other Irish driver I've seen. And do you remember when I told you earlier that when people are dedicated and committed, other people come
Yeah.
alongside? That's what he's had. They've had to raise €2 million to race this year. His dad didn't write the check. He couldn't write the
Yeah.
check. But there are people like Harris, a company in Santry, right across from the old stock car track, Condren Concrete, all these people, the teams themselves who want quick drivers, enough people came together and say, hey, we're going to support you because we think you have a chance to wave the Irish flag as an ambassador across the world for us. And he is proving that he is. He is a remarkable
Yeah.
talent. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, he is. He did really well in his first Formula One
Amazing.
session as well.
600ths slower than Piastri. That was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was too.
Yeah.
Most of my listeners have grown immensely because of what he's been doing as well. So I'm quite grateful.
I want you to know I follow him on Instagram.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, well, I guess we'll just finish off with the current Formula One season. You're up to date with it, are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Watch every
What?
race, watch every session, every qualifying. Yeah. Follow it all.
Um, so the CEO, Stefano, this week said that he thinks the races need to be shorter. A lot of the drivers were asked about it this today in media day, and basically everyone said that they disagree with that and that, you know, it is obviously on our own attention spans. The younger generation probably attention spans aren't as they used to be. What would your opinion be on him thinking that the races need to be shorter?
Wow. I'd say at the moment, I'd say no.
Hmm.
Um, but I understand the logic of attention spans. Now, I do watch MotoGP,
Yeah.
and they're too short.
Hmm.
I mean, I just watched the last MotoGP, 26 laps. I just think it's too short. But no, I wouldn't say F1's too. It needs to be shortened yet. I
Yeah.
don't think so.
No,
Yeah.
I would agree.
Remember, I'm used to
Yeah.
the Indy 500.
Yeah.
That's 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And no one's ever suggested that should be shorter.
No,
Yeah.
it's the same. That's yeah, and Alonso was saying the same about like soccer and everything. Sometimes it's long, but it's never a suggestion that it needs to be shorter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so lastly, who do you think for the championship? Piastri or Lando?
Piastri.
I think I
Uh,
agree.
yeah. Piastri, he's got that numb emotional state that he can get in where he doesn't have
Mm.
highs or lows.
Oh yeah.
And I think ultimately, when the pressure comes on, I think that will play to his strengths more so than Lando. So Lando's great, he's amazing. But I think Piastri has exhibited an emotional control over his ability to drive the car and enough brain capacity to think about everything outside at the same time. And do you know who's emotionally built like Piastri?
Are you gonna say
Alex
Alex?
Alex Dunne.
I make that
Yeah,
comparison a lot. I completely agree with that.
yeah, they've given him penalties out the wazoo,
Yeah.
undeserved, and he
Hmm.
just says, "You watch me."
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
fits right into McLaren, I think, and
yeah,
I see a lot of him and Oscar similarities.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, I have about 50 seconds left, but
All right.
I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on. This was definitely one of the most interesting chats I've had in my entire life. And yeah, what you've done for Irish motorsport has been incredible, and even in your commentary career afterwards. So, on behalf of us Irish motorsport fans, I just wanted to say thank you for
Great.
that.
Thank
And
you. My pleasure.
yeah,
I'm
thank
glad
you
you gave me
again.
this chance. Okay. Thank
Thank
you,
you
Chris.
again for coming on. Have a good rest of your day. It's a bit early
Anytime.
there.
We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, I would love to.